Hello and welcome to your new T815 crawler system. Now, apart from the normal assembly when you take an 804 out of the box, you also have to refit the cable winding device because it doesn't fit in the box unless it's lifted away from the frame. So cut the tie wrap and click the level winding device back onto the frame. When you receive your unit, it's configured for shipping, and in that case the display unit and the keyboard are fitted to the side frame. So before you use it, you need to do a few things. Right, so the first thing we need to do, this will be tie wrapped on, just cut your tie wrap, disconnect the keyboard lead, and the next thing we do is remove the display unit. So the display unit will hinge out and it's held onto the frame with clips, just the same as the keyboard is. So the easiest way to get this off is one clip at a time and pull it up and outwards. Put your foot on the frame, you're quite strongly affixed. Do not put your thumbs on the screen just in case you break it. So give it a hefty pull, put it to one side. Do the same with the keyboard. There we go, they're removed from the frame. The link cable can now be removed from its stowage position. These clips are quite tight as well. You're supplied with 4 clips. In practice, you usually only need one of them, which we affix up here, like this. There we go, and the next thing we do is fit the keyboard and display unit back on the frame. Right, I've turned the drum around so it's facing us now. Here's the top 2 tubes. Keyboard always goes on first. As I say, these clips are pretty tight, so I have to put a bit of effort into them. There we go, and make sure it goes flat. If it's too far to the right, it doesn't go flat. Too far to the right or the left. That's correct position. So that's gone down flat. Display unit next. And remember, don't put your thumbs on the screen just in case you put too much effort in and break the polycarbonate front. It's very tough. It's best to avoid that. Right, put the display unit down flat. And the next thing we'll do is fit the 2 cables. So I switch that around. Right, first of all, the keyboard cable, that's coming from the keyboard. That goes to the socket marked keyboard. Push it in and then rotate it, keeping a constant pressure on it. Should go in about 3 or 4 turns. And once it's in, the screw will stop moving. Next we get the main link cable, and that plugs into the other side here. Same again, rotate it until it clicks into place and then screw it on. Right, they're both fitted. We'll now put the display unit back. And there's the screen ready to be used. When we supply it, it's got the film still on the screen, but we've left a quarter out so I can pull behind it and remove the screen protector. Next thing to do is to move the selector on the drum. That will be supplied in drum lock. And in drum lock, the handle will move up and down a few degrees. That locks the cable drum and is only used for transportation and is very rarely used. The normal position this is left is in auto, which is the last position. To move that downwards, what I do is put my hand underneath the lever, push on the legend plate move the handle towards me slightly and then move it downwards, and then make sure that it clicks into position in auto. That's the auto position. That is now ready for use. From delivery, the cable will be tie wrapped, the cable connector will be tie wrapped to the side of the drum. Cut the cable ties and remove the cover, and then the correct threading of the cable is underneath the guide roller and in between the two bits of plastic here. If you need more cable out, even with the whole system switched off, it will allow you to pull cable out so you can connect it to your crawler. You can also manually pull it backwards as well. System isn't on yet, so nothing automatic is going to happen. Your crawler will be supplied in a case, and for transportation it is strapped to the case. So the first thing you need to do if you want to remove the crawler is to release the straps. And before moving the crawler, ensure you've got protective gloves on. It's imperative when operating with crawlers. With the elevator fitted, the crawler weighs 20 kilograms, so it's not an insignificant weight. To remove the crawler from the case without an elevator, it's quite simple. You hold it from the back and the front and lift bodily up. With an elevator fitted, lift the elevator upwards into the fully upright position and then pick the crawler up from front and back again. Never pick the crawler up from the elevator underneath it there, because that can be a trap area. Without the elevator it's absolutely simple, just underneath the 812, underneath the back of the crawler and lift bodily upwards. Inside the box you've got the wheels suitable for 8-inch. Note which way they go round. They have clips on them to hold them in place. They just pull out, and then you can remove these ones first and then the lower ones. These are the wheels suitable for 6-inch, and these are the wheels suitable for 4-inch. Let's have a look at the upper tray. Got everything here that you need to operate the crawler. The positions of things do change depending on what part of the world the system is sent to, and also what options you've got on the crawler. For instance, this is a USA crawler, so we've got USA mains leads here. First thing you need is, of course, the user manual, and there's two user manuals. There's one for the crawler and drum and so on, and there's also one which seems superfluous, which is for the pushrod system. But the pushrod system user manual goes into greater depth, things such as text writing and using the video recorder and how to operate the 812 camera and so on. That's why you get that. The main manual you will be using is the 815 crawler manual, and that covers not only the crawler but the two versions of drum as well. And it's relevant whether you have an elevator, the large light head, the wheel extensions, or you just got the simplest crawler with the small wheels sets. Okay, so the first thing to do with the manual is make sure you have everything. So with a small crawler system, then you get it in a small case, and you only have the 8-inch wheels is the largest wheel set you have. But as with this system and the main bulk of our sales, they're the large crawler system, so that goes through the other parts. Elevator is an option even on the large crawler system. And then we've got the page which shows the contents of the case, but we'll go through that now. It also shows the stowing position, if you have an elevator or without an elevator. Also very useful, it shows how to store the crawler if you've taken off the wheel extensions and you want to transport it with just the, say, 8-inch wheels. Then you can actually store the crawler at the end of the case like that, and that'd be safely stored. Okay, so there's two manuals and the mains leads. Main items, of course, are the batteries. We've got 2 spare batteries, well, the 2 small batteries, and they've got covers on them which cover up the lock button and the front terminal as well. So whenever you're not using them, put the 2 covers on them, they stay much safer. If you remove the large battery, which is fitted to the crawler at the moment, then this is the cover for it. So if you wanted to use the crawler in 4, 6 or 8 inch, then, well, certainly for 4 inch you can remove the large battery and fit its cover. For 6 and 8 inch you can use either the large or the small batteries. So you've got an option there. Okay, so that's the spare batteries. Now, depending on what options you have will determine what parts you have in here. Move this forward so we can see it better. So here we have the charger for the drum itself, and that's got a connector which will only fit into the power cell on the drum. And then we've got the crawler charger. Both of these are AC chargers, and that's what the mains leads go with. Also in here we've got wheel bolts. Now, you've already got a set of large wheel bolts fitted to your crawler, and that's what holds the large pneumatics on. But if you wanted to remove the wheel extensions and fit the 8-inch wheels, then these are the bolts to use for that. And if you wanted to use the 4 and 6-inch wheels, then they're the bolts for that. You get 6 of those and you get 4 of the large ones. And the other thing you get is the Allen key, and that's used for undoing the large light head. And if you've got an elevator, then it's used for that as well. So as I say, the contents of this box may change depending on what options you have. Next things in the box are the wheel tool. That's used for getting the wheels on and off, and don't forget to push it in before turning it, and that will unlock the locking devices. So that's used for not only the wheels but also the wheel extensions, the same size will fit that. And then we've got the pressure pump. That's what we use for pressurising the crawler up, 40 or 50 psi. As long as you've got some pressure in it, that's fine. And the other thing we have is a DC charger, so that can be connected to a vehicle and charge the crawler batteries from that. If you wanted a DC charger for the drum, that's a separate lead. And then the last thing we have in the top box is the grab device. So you've got a certain length of heavy duty cording there, and the grabber itself. And you need to practice with that because it's a simple mechanism, but you do need to practice. And the trick is to close the jaws by giving it a sharp pull upwards. There we go, sharp pull, and it closes. And what you do is you put that around the crawler at the battery. So the battery has actually got flutes in the side of it. And as you put the grab device over it, it will open up over the battery, and then you can pull the whole crawler up just by lifting the battery. Battery positioning and securing, it was designed so you can lift a whole crawler. The whole crawler weighs 20 kilograms maximum, so it's not onerous to lift it up. And as soon as you put the crawler down, it will release. So that's well worth practicing with. It takes a little while to get used to that operation, but once you've got used to it, it's such a simple method, much more effective way of lifting a crawler rather than using hawsers and using shackles and so on. This is absolutely straightforward. Hardest bit is get used to doing the quick whiz down and up to close the jaws. So do that again. There we go. That's closed the jaws, ready to go over the crawler. And as it does so, you can lift the crawler up, and as soon as you put the crawler down, this will go into that position and lock. So that's the full contents of the tray. Now, if you've got a Wi-Fi unit as part of the order, then that will either be in these trays somewhere, and we'll move other things out, or it'll be in the large cardboard box that the drum comes in. This isn't optioned with a Wi-Fi, so there's no need. This is the standard position for all the parts. Now, as I say, we do move things around, so don't open a box and say something's missing straight away. We've probably stored it somewhere else. And we make sure that each crawler system has its full complement of parts against the checklist before it's shipped. When returning the crawler to the case, it is imperative that you pick up the crawler from the front and back and not the sides. And just lift it bodily in. If you try to lift it from the sides, that is a trap area, so there's no room. And remember always to be wearing protective gloves. When you're removing the battery, get a grip on the body of the battery here, lift up the lock and then pull the battery back. Now, depending on how new the system is, these batteries can be quite tight on the crawler. They soon wear in and get loose. Fitting the batteries, got to make absolute sure it goes fully in, and the best way to do that is just to move it in quickly, like that. Give it a push, make sure it's fully locked and the button goes up and down. As long as the button goes up and down, that means that it's fixed and it will not come off the crawler. Fitting the light head without an elevator, the best way to do it is to screw these in and then back them out about half a turn. There we go, about there. The other one. Back them out half a turn. Do that so you can get the battery on. Let's hit the battery on. There we go, and then you can fully tighten the two screws. They don't need to be too tight. It's held in place by the battery now. And there we go, and if you actually want to test the actual lights are working, you can turn it around, and as long as you've got the battery in, move it fast enough, it will generate electricity and the lights will come on. Right, pressurising the crawler. First of all, move the connector around so you can get the pump in. The gauge on the pump is adjustable, so you can move it so you can view it while you're pumping. This crawler is already pressurised, but we'll repressurise it. There we go, still got 35 psi in there. Right, so the best way to do it is brace the pump with one hand, with your left hand, and then pump with your right hand, and 40 or 50 psi is quite sufficient. And just take a few seconds just to check the gauge to make absolutely sure we're not dropping pressure, we haven't got a huge leak somewhere, that one's fine. With the crawler pressurised, everything is pressurised. The camera head is, light head is, the battery is. And with the crawler pressurised, when you lift up the battery catch, it will eject itself because of course it's got pressure in at this point. There we go, that's ejected itself. The battery itself will also remain pressurised, so if I press this button here, there you go, you can hear the air coming out of that. With the crawler pressurised, you need a bit more firm press of the battery into position. There we go, so it clicks in position because you're overcoming the pressure at this point here. The crawler will remain pressurised even when you change batteries. So you change to a different battery, that battery might not have any pressure in it, so you lose a bit of pressure. You can probably change batteries about 10 times before you lose all pressure. The cable connected, when it's connected to the main cable, allows air to travel from here into the cable, and that pressurises the cable, and you get a very slow loss of air pressure down the main cable. The important thing is if the main cable's cut into, then you're immediately told that on the screen. If we lose pressure in the crawler, then the flashing letter P will appear at the bottom of the screen, and that will let you know you've damaged the main cable. Right, with the crawler removed from its case, we can connect up the cable. Now with other crawler systems, you always have to use strain relief, and that's normally connected to the back of the crawler and then connected to the cable. No need for that with our cable system. It's a 4mm cable, but it's mainly Kevlar, and the Kevlar travels right up to the connector where it's weaved in and out of ferrules and then glued into place. So you get the full strength of the cable directly to the crawler, and of course the connector on the crawler is designed to take a lot of load. We can just press the on button. There we go, and as soon as we press that, the camera will centre itself up. It does this to work out which orientation it's in, and then it will stop when it's facing the right way. And we'll have the live video up on the screen. And then we can just simply press the forward button. That's forward, reverse and stop. So we go press the forward button and the crawler will move off. Cable drum will automatically let cable out, won't ever let it go slack. And the longer you press the forward button, the faster it will go. I'll press stop now before we run something over. There we go. Cable drum then takes up tension again. What I do now is I press reverse. Cable drum takes up the slack, and then the crawler will go into reverse, and the cable drum will take up any slack in the cable. What it's doing now, if I press reverse for longer, it will go faster. And we can steer it while it's reversing as well with the steering keys. Now, if you get into a panic, remember the first line of defence is always the centre button. That's the stop button. That will stop the crawler straight away. But if you sort of get lost, you can just turn the whole thing off at the hub. And as I turn it off, there we go. Everything switches off, the crawler stops, and after a few seconds the lights go out. And we're right back to the starting point again. So I'll turn it back on again. Camera will centre itself. There we go, pointing centre. I'll reverse it back in again by pressing the reverse button. Just a quick press and then it'll come in at its slowest speed. If I pressed it longer, it'll go faster. Then I'll press the middle button to stop now. There we go. And of course, as soon as I press reverse, we see the reversing camera. So there's the image from the reversing camera. Press forward. That's the image from the forward camera. And of course, we can adjust the position of it. So we've got the tilt and the rotate keys here. Those are the ones you need to know about. So I'm going to press tilt now. There we go. We can tilt around, tilt the other direction. And if we want, we can press rotate. I'll press the rotate buttons, which are here. And on the camera, you can actually see the whole camera head rotating. But because we've got human perspective view, the picture always stays the same way up. So I'll point off slightly to the right. And on the screen, as I press the rotate button, the picture always stays the same way up. So it just looks like a human viewing a room. We can stop at any point. So we're looking at the ceiling, we're looking at the left-hand side, we're looking at the bottom. And if we wanted to focus in on that, we've got two focus buttons here. So have a quick, better look at that. Just focus in, there we go, nice and sharp. Of course, with a pan and tilt camera, you often get the feeling you're lost somewhere. And that's why we've got a centre button. We press that. There we go. The camera is now facing straight forwards. It's right way up. And it's back into focus at a distance. So these sort of things, these are all covered in the user manual, how to operate the pan and tilt head. Of course, when you reverse, those buttons do absolutely nothing because, of course, you're looking out of the rear camera. So I'll go forwards a bit. Stop there before we run that box over. Hit the reverse button. Of course, we get the reverse picture. I press stop so it doesn't go anywhere. So you can press the tilt and rotate buttons and nothing on the screen will change, of course, because, of course, it's the front head that's moving, so I can turn that. But, of course, we're looking out of the rear camera. Okay, so we'll centre it back up again and bring the crawler back in by pressing reverse. And then I press stop when we get close to the coiler for the cable drum. Fitting wheels to the crawler is exactly the same as fitting wheels to the wheel extension. For these larger wheels, these are for 8-inch, and the pneumatics. First thing you do is align the wheel with the axle and allow it to go on. Now see this here, this is the ratchet spring. This is what holds the screws in place. Screws have got serrations in them that mate with those. So the wheels never need to be done up tightly. So what we'll do is we'll just tighten it up like that. And that last bit you heard was the ratchet engaging. So now we can rotate the screw driver backwards and forwards, and it's not going to release the bolt. The way to remove the bolt is to push the driver into the spring, and then that allows the spring to release the screw. There we go. Right, so these are the long wheel bolts, and they're used on the 8-inch wheels and the large pneumatics. The small pneumatics use smaller screws. Fitting the smaller wheels on the crawler or on the wheel extensions, you just need the single wheel bolt rather than the extended wheel bolt. To fit the wheel extensions to the crawler, it's easier to remove the fixing screw, so we'll pull that out. So it's got a single O-ring on it, holds it in position. And that makes it just a bit easier to line it up so you can see through and you can make sure you're lining up correctly. Then the best thing to do is have a spare wheel and rotate this until you feel it click into position. There we go. And do the same with the other one. Yep, that's in position. Push it downwards and onto the crawler. Don't allow the screw to pull it in. That may damage the threads. So once you're in position, push that in. Then use the screw tool. Reverse till you hear it click. There we go. And then go forwards. Should never be hard to turn it. If you get to a certain point and it goes stiff after the first half turn, then back it out and try it again. The material the crawler's made out of is softer than the stainless steel screw we're using. So if you get this out of line, you can damage the threads in the crawler side. And then just tighten up the last bit. There we go. And that's a wheel extension on. On crawler systems that are optioned with the large pneumatic wheels and the wheel extensions, if you wanted to go straight from, well, surveying up to 1 metre to surveying 4 inch, then it's much easier to leave the pneumatic wheels fitted to the wheel extensions. And in which case we'd just remove the wheel bolt from the wheel extension. Go. And then the wheel extension can be removed with the pneumatic wheels still installed. If you're fitting the wheel extensions back on and they still have the pneumatic wheels fitted, then the routine is exactly the same. We can just switch the system on at the hub. That's the only button you have to press. The auto drummer will start to tension the cable ready for use. Crawler will start up on its own, even though it's battery powered and there's no power coming up this cable at all. In fact, this cable is only used for signals. There's no voltages on that at all. Okay, so the crawler's ready to go. We can start a recording and then we can just start the survey. It's as simple as that. Just press forward and the auto drum will release cable for the crawler and the crawler will go off and do its survey at up to 0.5 metre a second. So let's go to that speed. And then when you want to come back again, if you hit reverse, then the reversing lights come on, the reversing camera comes on, and the auto drum will start pulling the crawler back in again. And we control the speed of that all the way from just a few fractions of a metre per second up to 0.5 metre a second. So for a situation like we want to put it into a culvert, well, that's no problem at all. You can just push the crawler around and the auto drum will let cable out. You can pull cable off of the cable drum and it will motorise it back out again. A lowering device to lower the crawler into the culvert, and then when you let go of the cable, the automatic drum will pull in the cable again until there's a small amount of tension on it, and then it will stop and we're ready for use again. Right, let's see how quickly we can set this up for a day's work. Got a power cell for the crawler, that slides on there, clicks into place. It can't be removed unless you remove the catch. We can then connect the cable. The cable's got the strain relief built into it, so you don't have to have the separate chains or ropes that you usually see going from there to there. No need for that at all. The Kevlar's locked in the connector. You can actually pick up the crawler with the cable, so there's no need for strain relief. Right, that's the crawler battery on. Next one, I'll put the battery on for the control unit and the auto drum. There we go, that's in place. Take it out of drum lock and into auto. Switch on. And as soon as I switch on the automatic drum, the crawler comes alive. It'll centre up the head. While we're waiting, we can press the record button, recording, and we're ready to go. Lastly, let's have a look at the operator's control, what they see when it's all switched on. Let's switch the system on. Pan and tilt head initialises itself so it faces straight forward and gets itself the right way up. That's ready. We can start a recording by pressing yes. That's the recorded picture, which is being checked now, and then back to the live picture. Okay, so we're ready to operate. So we can just press the forward button to get the crawler moving forwards. And while we're moving, we can use the pan and tilt camera. Let's rotate it down to have a look at the road surface. Focus in on that. There we go. And rather than being lost, you can just press the center button and the camera will center itself, get itself the right way up and ready to operate again. And while it's moving forwards on a flat surface, we can steer it. So let's steer it like that. Cable drum slows down while it's steering and then it catches back up again. Okay, so that's forward. Let's put it into reverse. Put it in reverse and then stop, and the crawler won't move, but the cable drum gets itself ready to go. Let's press reverse. Cable drum takes up slack and then starts pulling the crawler back. Get a bit of speed up. Get ready to press stop. And it'll stop immediately, no weight on it. So press forward and stop, get the forward picture, press reverse and stop, get the reverse picture, and stop the recording. Okay, there's always the question, what happens if you're a long way out and the crawler battery fails or you run out of power? First of all, you get 30 minutes grace with the crawler battery. Start telling you 30 minutes before it's going to fully extinguish that it's time to bring it back in again. Okay, but let's say we ignored that completely. Let's pull it out to about 50 metres or so. That'll do. So let's pretend that the crawler is fully extinguished. Well, we can put it into drum lock, which is normally used for transportation. And then we can lift the handle up, and when you do that, it will bring the crawler back in again. And there we go. Yeah, that's most operators' nightmare if you're running battery-powered systems. You lose the tractor somewhere. But we can get it back in. Let's take it out a lot, otherwise I'll be dragging the thing along the car park again. Back into auto. Right, well, what happens in the situation when you run out of power in both of them? Well, that's the beauty of having a cable that's so small, 4mm of cable, is that it's so easy to bring in. And when you remove power from the crawler, it goes into freewheel mode, so I can switch the whole system off. Right, system's off, the crawler's off. How do I get that back? Well, we've given you a handle for that. There we go, safely back again. Of course, both these batteries can be charged on site. And strangely enough, dragging the crawler back with the battery still connected actually charges it up, as it also charges up the power cell when you manually bring in the cable drum, but just by a small amount. Okay, so that's the operator's nightmare, that you either run out of battery on the crawler or on the auto drum. Well, both of them give you fair warning of at least half an hour, and you can retrieve your crawler manually just with a small handle, because the whole thing is a lightweight system, but more importantly, it's a lightweight cable. And that's the most important thing about this whole system, is the 4mm cable. And that means with a battery on the crawler, that means we don't have to put power through the cable. That means we don't need large conductors. And we can just get away with 3 signal wires, and the rest of it's Kevlar, which makes it exceptionally strong, but exceptionally light as well. And it means the crawler can pull off 300 meters of cable from this, and the auto drum can pull back the crawler 300 meters with very little energy usage. And that is the magic of this system, is that it's so efficient and so eco-friendly, and it just makes sense. Well, thank you for watching the video regarding the crawler system from Troglotech. Got any further questions, get in touch with your local distributor or info@troglotech.com and we'll answer any questions there.